Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, another Friday, another podcast, and this Friday, you could be out doing some wild Black Friday shopping if you guys are insane. Some of us got the day off of work, so we just might be kicking it here in the garage, just wrenching on stuff today. So I'm looking forward to spending some time trying to get some of my numerous projects caught up. I don't know what I'm working on. I got a Type 4 motor I'm finishing disassembling on a budget 2-liter rebuild that I'm building. I've got kick panels for rag chops. So I could put some speakers in it, maybe going to work on some of the stereo and audio equipment on it. So thinking about that. Got a lot of stuff I want to get working on today, and got to get this podcast out to you guys. So it's a little bit late today, but you're getting it. Not like the other podcasts that you normally rely on that are not there for you. Let's Talk Dubs is for you today. And so to show your appreciation, make sure you share this podcast with your friend. We love when you guys share the podcast. Today's show might strike interest to some of those people that are thinking about going down the Type 4 alley. We've got Jeff Patterson from Type 4 Revoulution here in the studio. He happened to be at SEMA show, hits me up on a text. We get to chatting, and you'll find out why he's here and all that good stuff during the podcast. But he's Type 4 Revoulution on Instagram. Check out his stuff. He's doing a lot of Type 4 motors on the East Coast. So we got to chat, and I said, let's go to the studio and record an interview. So that's what today's podcast is about. So if you like Type 4 stuff, take a listen. If you like general knowledge about engines and whatnot, jump up, pull up a chair, turn up your volume, and sit back and enjoy this podcast. Now, don't forget to support the people that support Let's Talk Dubs. Go to Ross Wolf and pick out some cool stuff for your vehicle. Matter of fact, I would guess they're probably having a sale if I had to guess. So go on their website at rosswolf.com. That's ROSSWULF.com. So rosswolf.com. Go check them out. And also don't forget to subscribe to VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people, not just air-cooled, also some water-cooled stuff and a lot of how-to. So go check them out today at VWTrendsMagazine.com. And if you want to support your boy Bill, go to letstalkdubs.com and pick up some merch. Get a shout on the podcast when you pick up some merch, as well as if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So go check it out. Leave us a review, pick up some merch, support your boy, and let's get into it this week. So it's going to be a quick one, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging for the big, long weekend. So it's time to enjoy some Type 4 talk with Jeff Patterson, Type 4 Revoulution, on this week's Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like. So if you happen to see a good-looking Volkswagen, don't panic.
Okay, everybody. So on today's show, we just wrapped up this week at the SEMA show, and today's Friday at the end of the week. And during SEMA, we always get an opportunity to meet people from across the country, even from around the world, that follow the podcast, that we know each other through Instagram and whatnot. And this week was no exception. This week I had an opportunity to meet up with a guy on the East Coast that I follow on Instagram. He follows me, I follow him, and his name, and he's the good thing about him, he's a Type 4 dude, and I always like Type 4 guys. And so on today's podcast, I've got Jeff Patterson with Type 4 Revoulution out of Savannah, Georgia on the podcast. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So the way we always start the podcast, and I know you've listened to a couple episodes, but the way we always start the podcast, because obviously you're to give the listeners a little bit of background, if you're looking for Type 4 stuff on the East Coast, Jeff's your guy. Type 4 Revoulution, you want to follow him on Instagram. He's got a long history doing Type 4 stuff, and that's kind of one of the ways that he found out about me. And then we kind of get to know each other through Instagram, and then we got to hang out yesterday. So it's pretty cool. So I want to get him on the podcast because we can do a little bit of Type 4 talk this week, as well as some of his history. But the way that we always start the podcast is, what's your VW story, and how did you get into Volkswagens?
I guess it starts real early in childhood. We've always had Volkswagens in my family. Mm-hmm. It goes way back. So basically I grew up with a Volkswagen emblem in my hand from day one. Yeah. So, with my parents having Volkswagens, and then I'm buying my dad's Volkswagen and moving on from there. So they've always been in my life.
What year did you get your first Volkswagen?
I believe you're gonna date me now.
Well, I mean, how old
Yeah.
were you? Let's just sort of do it that way. How old are you?
Well, I got my first Volkswagen in '87. I'm 53.
So you got, and I meant to say how old were you when you got it,
Yeah.
but now you just blew the whole thing out of the water. So, in 1987, you got your first Volkswagen. What year was it?
It was a 1974 Super Beetle. I bought from my dad.
A curved windshield, flat windshield.
Curved windshield.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know you were German look from the beginning. Like you were a Type 4 guy destined to be,
Exactly.
that whole vibe. So you get into Volkswagens and you grew up in
Lakeland, Florida.
Yep. So
I was in the Florida scene.
So was there a Florida scene when you were growing up?
There was a Florida scene. Even pre-Bug Jam, there was a Florida scene.
And so it was like the scene of the 80s, mini trucks and bugs and stuff like that.
That's correct.
Do you remember any cars in the magazine that were like, dude, that one day I'm going to have a car like that?
I think there was like a 21 window like that I saw.
So you're a bus guy from way back. Like
way back,
You
yes.
love buses way back.
Split buses. Yeah, it was always like the place to get to.
Yeah. That was the end goal. Like one day I'll have a bus.
At the beginning, it was transportation. Then my friends wanted me to work on their Volkswagens. So it got really deep after that.
And you're naturally, like you found yourself to be naturally mechanically inclined?
Yes, it's like from photographer, mechanical draftsman, straight up to machine shop, and then basically the whole time working on Volkswagens.
So how do you what formal experience do you have for mechanical stuff?
Well, formal experience really didn't happen until 92, till I joined the United States military. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I became an aircraft mechanic.
Now, what was the process to do that? Like you were like, I mean, obviously you go in there, you can peel potatoes.
Right.
For all you know, right?
Right. Well, you got to take a test. So when you
is that a thing, dude? Is that really, is that like a thing where you look at a guy like that dude should be peeling potatoes? Because there's the stigma, right? Like you go join the military. I think it came from a cartoon.
Yep.
A cartoon like way back in the day, like one of those early cartoons where they just show a dude joins the army and he's there peeling a mountain of potatoes.
Oh yeah. So if you got test out. So
yeah,
they evaluate you from your testing.
So right out of the gate, you're going in. You're in your early 20s when you're joining the military.
Correct.
And you decide, hey, I'm going to follow something in a mechanical path, and they give you a full battery of tests, or how does that all go down?
Well, me and my best friend
joined together.
We joined together because he was
Hold
like,
on. Did the recruiter like, you guys will be together the whole time?
Oh no.
Okay, good.
He capped that one off. It was like, he was a lowrider truck guy.
Right.
But he liked the full size truck. So he was rolling around in like probably an 80 square body, long bed truck, slammed on the ground, cut coil springs, dragging it until he couldn't drag it no more.
Yeah.
Wore out his A-arms and then throw another set of A-arms on there. We'd load up Volkswagens on the back of it and then he couldn't go anywhere. So it was a useless truck.
Yeah.
But that's what we rolled around in, that and my Volkswagen.
Yeah.
So, but no, we were going to join up and be male nurses. We wanted to be in the medical field. We were trying to be medical personnel because that's where the money was at, and that's where we wanted to be.
Yeah, when you join the military, your thing is like, what can I do here for free that they'll train me to do that I can take in the outside world and make a bunch of cash?
Exactly. And they looked at us and said, don't think so.
You guys are wrench turners. You guys are wrench turners.
No. So they're like, no. And so they offered me and him medium helicopter repair. So me and Chad, basically, we went to go do medium helicopter repair. Well, he was indecisive. He didn't want to go. I'm going to stick 6 years in right off the bat. I'm like, send me, because they're like, we can send you to Europe. And I'm like, Europe? I'm a Volkswagen guy.
Right.
It only makes sense. So I'm like, sure.
When you're a kid, right? You're just send me.
I'm like 20 years old. So I'm like, sure, send me to Europe. I mean, that's like perfect,
Yeah.
And I just was like, okay. So I just finished my car, just had it, custom painted and ready to go from Teddy's Hot Rods over there on West Central Florida. Mm-hmm. Just had Teddy's Hot Rods go through it for me. So I was like, hey, paint and body work wise, not mechanically wise, obviously.
And this was the 73?
This was my 74 Super Beetle.
74. And what'd you have it lowered on?
I had all the top line stuff, everything that you could buy back then.
Yeah, because that was the one thing about, there was one dude in my car club in the early 90s that had a Super Beetle, and I said, bro, I don't even know how you lower it, dude. So we called him Kirby because he took a bunch of parking curbs and just threw them under the hood to slam the front. And that's how I thought you slammed a Super Beetle. But
right.
And top line was around back then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So I got over time, I got that stuff, So, and I just kept plundering away at it.
So you join the military, start working on helicopters, stuff like that.
And he decides he doesn't want to do the 6 years. So he passes up on that and he decides he's going to go to basic training and decide what he wants afterwards. I went to basic training and already decided I was going to go to Fort Useless for 4 months for helicopter school and go from there.
What's Fort Useless?
It's Fort Eustis. It's in Virginia.
Oh, okay. So
They call it Fort Useless.
Right.
But yeah. So basically I got to take a nice vacation for 4 months in Fort Eustis right beside VA Beach and basically go from there and then eventually get stationed over in Europe. So
well, Virginia Beach is like like in the South there, that's like a hot spot of stuff, right? That's kind of like because I used to remember in the skateboard magazines, like we never got anything here when I was a kid. And I would always see they had a big half pipe in Virginia Beach somewhere. They would do all these skate shows over there. And I could never figure out, like, I think like Virginia Beach is bigger than Vegas. But I mean, I guess back then, it was more of a big hub for the South, right?
even in Florida, I mean, I hung out with all those people.
Really?
So yeah, that was actually my indoctrination with the Volkswagen along with skateboarding, because I was a big skateboarder back then myself.
Oh, were you?
So all the movers and shakers in the Orlando area,
Yeah.
in the Central Florida area, when it was really hot back then, they were building huge ramps. There were huge private ramps. I had pictures from all that stuff from back in the day. So I was in that scene as well, crisscrossing through the skateboarding scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally got pounded in the chest by one of the pro skateboarders from back then that was riding one of those big ramps, because I was taking pictures back then, doing a lot of stuff.
Nice.
A lot of photography.
So you're saying you took a skateboard to the chest?
Yeah, I took a skateboard to the chest by one of those professionals, man. It lost it,
That's wild.
It took the wind out of me, man. But like I say, I was literally living in my Volkswagen, taking pictures at these skateboard ramps, all these secret ramps, all these secret spots. So, it was pretty epic back then too. So
yeah,
and that was before there was any kind of social media other than like Thrasher magazine or whatever they put on TV. So
yeah, and my first skateboard I got when we lived in Houston for a short time, and a friend of my mom's had a skateboard in the closet, and it was a Sure Grip. I've never seen them to this day. So this is a bulletin to all the people listening out there. Right. It was a Sure Grip skateboard, and the bottom of it had a Liberty torch, and it said 1984 on it. I don't know why it was like a commemorative skateboard for 1984 or something like that, but it had a Liberty torch. I have yet to see one, because I'm trying. I mean, they're cheesy boards. A Sure Grip's a cheesy board,
sure, but
it's like I want to get a copy of the first board that I had, but I don't know if it was a special edition or something, because I've searched the internet far and wide. But after that, it's like I somehow ride a skateboard for transportation type thing, and then skateboarding was becoming cool, and then I really got exposed in skateboarding. Like my whole world changed when I watched Skate Visions, that Vision, the VHS with Agent Orange and all those guys. I was just like, bro, this is it. This is the life right here. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole culture of it, right? Like eventually with our show, One Crazy Weekend, I would like to tie in some skateboarding stuff to it, skateboarding and BMX. So when I was in talks with some guys to do a toy and literature show, but have it be Volkswagen, skateboards, and BMX, because I just think it's a whole culture of the 80s, 90s type thing. So, but let's get back to your story. So you join the military. Your buddy decides I'm out of here and gonna do something else.
Exactly.
And what happens to him?
Oh, he becomes a generator mechanic, and he gets sent to some little motor pool deep in Germany. That's just, he just hated it. Yeah. And then he goes to Fort Stewart, which is there in Georgia.
Yeah, generator mechanic, you're always in the bowels of everything working on stuff, right?
Oh yeah. He just hated it. And he was just in a motor pool. He was just always doing duties. He wasn't ever doing a real job. And then he ended up going to Fort Stewart and doing the same thing. So he just hated the Army and then just got out. So
you end up getting trained doing aircraft stuff now, or a helicopter more specifically. Are a lot of those helicopters air cooled still, or no?
Oh yeah, they're turbine shaft engines.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Even the early ones?
The earlier ones, they were air cooled as well,
because they had like those radial motors and all that. But those were all air cooled.
Yeah, those are the wooden bladed.
But I guess I guess a turbine motor's air cooled. I don't know, bro. I'm hardly a VW guy, as you can see from my house.
There's no liquid cooling in that factor, no.
So in the helicopters, they're still all air cooled, and so you work specifically on turbine stuff.
Correct.
You get some training, and I mean, obviously, working on aircraft stuff of any type is much cleaner and more precise than working on generators, right? Like generators, like stop the leak, add more diesel, right?
Yeah, this is like lots of book work, lots of putting it together, right? Lots of attention to detail,
special sealants, and like all kind of everything. I mean, really similar to
torque, all the torques, all the special hardware, all the safeties.
So you get out of the military, and now while you're in the military, you bring your bug with you?
I bring my bug everywhere with me, and in fact, I I became a flight engineer on those helicopters. So I actually flew around those helicopters right off the bat.
Really?
So I was actually a crew member most of my Army career and my civilian career as a contractor. So that was also pretty big.
Now, what is a flight engineer? What does that guy do?
He does everything that the pilots don't do. So the pilots just come to the aircraft, they look it over, and then they ask you if it's good, and they take it. So basically, you're the last call of maintenance, all the records,
So
all
you
the
check it off,
inspections.
make sure everything's done right. And
You got to check everything, and then you're the glorified stewardess, you're the load master.
Oh, so you go on.
You're the mechanic. That aircraft, everywhere you go with that aircraft.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and usually you have a crew chief underneath you as well, learning to be a flight engineer.
And what kind of helicopter was it?
Is a CH-47D Chinook helicopter.
The Chinooks are the ones with the twin propellers.
Yeah,
The
tandem rotor.
the big mofo's like
The big heavy lifters. Yeah,
Really?
They called them medium lift back then, but they're actually considered heavy lift at this point.
Now, is flying one of those completely different than flying a regular helicopter because the two
Yeah, way
the
nicer.
propellers.
Way nicer than a tail rotor.
Yeah.
And
So
way nicer than skids for kids.
yeah, those things will haul some weight, right?
They'll haul some weight, and they're actually the fastest thing in the Army inventory. So
How far can they go?
they go pretty far. You just have to have an earth tank if you want to go further.
Yeah.
You can fly 5 or 6 hours if you have an earth tank installed.
And what speed they fly at?
You can fly about 130 miles an hour.
Which is, I mean, it's fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
It's no jet
There's
fast, but
nowadays they're all digital cockpit and stuff like that because there's been an evolution to those that I was able to
any Black Hawk
attend
stuff?
that. No Black Hawk stuff. Never really cared for a bunch of sealant and rivets.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Oh my God, so much sealant on a Black Hawk.
Really?
It's just glued together. Yeah.
Why? For the
It's just the way they are.
for the those like anti-radar type things too, like
Not so much anti-radar, but
just glued together.
just a lot of stuff
A lot of
glued
glue.
together. A lot of sealant. Yeah. A lot
So
of
you
sealant.
take your bug everywhere, and so you're getting to experience the VW scene wherever you go. Like, did you spend some time in Germany?
I spent some time in Italy, actually, Aviano, Italy. So I was part of an Italian Volkswagen club. I was part of a Slovenian Volkswagen club, which was right across the border. I spent most of my time in Slovenia.
So what they see when you roll up in a lowered Super Beetle?
It would bring crowds.
Really?
It
Because
would
they
bring
would see
crowds.
stuff because usually back then in Europe everything's stock height probably, right?
Yeah, they had laws basically. They couldn't change anything without a bunch of papers and a bunch of money.
And you
So-
could drive with immunity because it was U.S. registered and you were there by the Army or what?
That's right. So
Really? That's pretty rad.
So you just go and get yourself some insurance. Insurance was based off the size of your engine, which was a 1600
Yeah.
cc engine.
So your insurance was cheap.
Never a 1600, but
Right.
yes, it was a 1600 cc engine.
Nice.
Keep your insurance rates down.
And so you just mobbed that thing around. So you had in Italy, and you said,
So I went and got a passport after the first couple months I was there. I went and got a passport as quick as possible. I called my senator and said, "Hey, export me a quick passport." You
yeah.
know? So I got the quick passport, got it done, got a blue passport, not a green one, because I just wanted to be able to bounce around borders, freely. So
Nice.
no problem doing that.
And during that time, I mean, are you doing much mods to the car while you're overseas?
I am. I'm using the APO system like it's going out of style.
What's the APO system?
It's just basically APO is just the Armed Forces Postal Service. So basically, you can send something. It basically goes to New York, gets put on a big plane, gets sent overseas, and they just distribute it like C-130s and C-5s. Just take mail to all the different bases and distribute your mail.
Really?
And everybody's got a PO box over there, so you basically just go to your box every day and check your mail. So
Nice.
that's how you get your mail while you're over there. It's basically a PO box.
Yeah, because I think we talked yesterday. You told me that you'd ordered an Onendorp exhaust and some stuff like that.
Well, that was just through the German economy that I ordered that. But in order to do that, I had to go
Was
and
that
find
while
a
you were in
fax
the military?
machine. It was
Yeah.
while I was in the military. I had to go find a fax machine, which was like MWR or something, and I had to handwrite my credit card information and send it to them, and then they were able to run my card and then get me my stuff.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
And so you end up in the military for 6 years,
8.5 years.
8.5 years, and then you go private contractor after that.
Yeah, then it literally slid from one side of the hangar to the other side of the hangar, and then just continued on being a
Like
fly
the
engineer.
same bases and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was the same place. It was basically I just went from one side of the hangar to the other, and then I just started being a flight engineer over there as well as for test flight purposes. So the commander signed me off. The same
Nice.
commander that was in charge of me when I was in the military signed my paperwork to fly.
Really?
And I flew with an old, Vietnam guy who was like 2 tours Vietnam, first time enlisted, second time an officer. and he was old as dirt. He could
Really?
barely crawl into the helicopter.
So you could fly a helicopter too?
Best stick ever. I cannot fly the helicopter. No.
Oh, okay. So you were just
Simulator time, yes, but
but
realistically, no, they don't. They don't want me flying on the helicopter.
So when you say you're flying, you're flying with the
Flight engineer the whole time, yeah.
Nice.
So wherever the helicopters went, I went.
So when you're over there, when's the first time that you get exposed to like the whole Type 4 thing? You know, like what's your first time when you cross paths with that? When you're like, wait a second, these guys are doing something different.
I was seeing a lot of it in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing a lot of it in Europe at the shows. At basically they had a whole catalog. Ananthrope had a whole catalog, and it was like all this cool Type 4 stuff. You know, the nice shrouds that you like, like the sharp built shroud style stuff. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then I just I called them up, and they didn't want to sell me anything. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to build my own. So basically I ordered like a turnkey long block, and I had it shipped from the States to me. I had to pay some import duty stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I looked around, and all I found was Euro Race. He was selling like some fiberglass 10s and a modified fan shroud. So I basically built an upright conversion in my car in my barracks room.
Really?
Yeah, because my 1600 pretty much died while I was over there. I bought a 1776. Yeah. And it pretty much died when I was done over there. So then I built this 2-liter, and I put the Euro Race conversion on it, and that's how I ended up with the Ananthrope exhaust and a few other things. So I built this motor. My friend today, he swears that I gave him a double hernia from toting that engine from my barracks room to the barracks parking lot and installing it.
Nice.
So, and then I cruised that around, the extent of my European tour, and then brought it back with me.
And
so
that's the Super Beetle you're talking about?
Yeah, and my 74 Super Beetle. So basically,
you still have that car?
I do not. No. Unfortunately, when I was over in Iraq,
and that was your dad's car?
It was my dad's car. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he sold it to me. So he made me pay for it.
Did he buy it new?
He did not buy it new, but he had a stack of receipts, probably bigger than like 2 phone books when I bought the car from him. And he kept saying, we're going to tell you when and where you can go with it and blah, blah, until you pay it off. And I said, how much do I owe you for the car? And he's like, $1,500. And I threw that $1,500 on the table. I said, there, now you can't tell me what to do, but I appreciate you paying my insurance.
Right.
And so at that point, he was just like, okay, no big deal. So, and then like I say, on top of that, working on my friend's cars at the same time, my friend, his dad used to run King of the Hill in Florida.
Yeah. And
I was working on his son's car because he got tired of working on his own son's car. So I was always going to him. He was like my mentor, always going to Mr. Ritter for advice on Volkswagen stuff, and then helping his son adjust his valves and keep him out of trouble, because he was the only one old enough in our high school to buy beer. I mean, he was like a forever student.
Right.
So
you gotta keep him happy. He's the guy in 12th grade with a full beard.
Full beard,
Yeah.
Fully legal. So basically it was crazy. But basically I blame it all on his father. His father was definitely a good mentor to me as far as, working on these things to keep him driving. You keeping us running around the streets. Yeah. So. And
now you get back, so you end up leaving military, finishing your contracting stuff. And then so you sell your Volkswagen. So what's your Volkswagen story go after that?
My Volkswagen story is I had a bad addiction over time, and I just kept collecting more and more Volkswagens. So I bought a house in I think it was 99-ish. I bought a house in Savannah, Georgia. Mm-hmm. And then I built a shop in the back, because when I got it just had a shed and a lean-to. Mm-hmm. So then I built me a nice Quonset hut style U.S. buildings garage. Decked out, concrete, everything, power, the full works, air conditioning, So then I started working on stuff, and then eventually, my backyard just started getting filled up with Volkswagens. So I was working at the air base, and I was building Volkswagens. The same thing today, basically. But I was building more and more Volkswagens, and I just kept collecting stuff. You come across a good deal. Somebody wants to get out. Yeah, somebody wants to get out from underneath something. I just started stacking Volkswagens, and then it just got to the point where I was like, I really need to sell this car, but I don't want to restore it again. It was a really nice car, but it had probably $10,000 just in the frame, just in the lower section alone, with all the suspension mods and everything else I had done to it. So basically, with my contracting took me back overseas again, and this time to Iraq. So in 2004, 2006, I did a 2-year stint in Iraq in the middle of Balad, still working on helicopters.
Yeah.
So I went from mechanic to supervisor, pre-position. So I was basically just like the team lead. And so I did mostly team lead stuff. So I had a lot of time on my hands to buy stuff and send stuff home. And basically I had friends there. I had a friend there, long time friend, and he was constantly receiving my stuff. And then he'd go and take it to my house and put it in my garage for me. So basically he would just look in on my stuff, check out my neighborhood.
Building inventory while you're there.
I was building inventory while I was there. I bought a bunch of stupid toys, did a bunch of stupid things, but I didn't waste my money. I just, I was just buying stuff.
Reinvested.
Yeah, I was reinvesting my money in just car stuff and motorcycle stuff. I bought me a Hayabusa, stretch, lowered, the full works,
Really?
just insane. Every time you got on it, you see the Grim Reaper chasing you.
Yeah.
So, but basically, I was just collecting Volkswagens. But when I was over there, my garages were full. So I told my friend, he was like, I'll take care of your car. I'll drive it every once in a while. I was like, whatever, dude, no problem. So I left it with him. Well, it kept getting set outside. And I was like, dude, you can't leave my car outside. Dual carbs.
Right.
Late model bug. There's no protection to the carburetors,
Right.
First time it rains, you're going to get hydrolock. So I told my friend, I said, you know what, just put that thing up for sale. I'm probably not going anywhere for a while. Just put it up for sale and send it, So some 18-year-old nuclear submarine guy in Charleston ended up buying it. And basically it just disappeared off the earth. So, and that was in 2005.
What'd you sell it for?
Probably $5,500. Yeah, it's painful now, but it's like, I had so many other cars. I had like a 63 Beetle that I picked up that was mint. I went out and basically in 2004, I just, bought an R32 Golf brand new from the dealership because I could.
Those are nice. Yeah.
So, and I was like, and then I just kept collecting more and more cars. So I was just like, that one just had to go at that point in time. I mean, would I buy it back? Probably, if I ever saw it again.
Yeah, just for sentimental reasons.
Just for sentimental reasons. People are like, well, why'd you sell your first car? I'm like, well, I had that thing from 87 to 2005. That was a pretty long stint.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had the Innovations dash in it.
Oh,
it was slammed. It had the custom center lines on it. The really nice ones. They were like a 5-star pattern. And of course I had the freeway flyer transmission, the 2-liter Type 4, everything decked out, to the hilt, it was done. And then the first paint job was Purple Night. It was a purple color that Teddy's Hot Rods had painted it. Then over time that needed a paint job again. So then my buddy who was taking care of my car, he's like, I'll paint your car for you, man. You just got to buy the paint. So like, okay. So you guys goes and buys some House of Colors, no expense spared, House of Colors, and does a Sickens flip paint job on it for me.
Really?
Yeah, so I ended up getting a flip paint job, which was basically purple, green.
That's the Revoulution paint they called it, right? Where like it looked purple, green, gold, like it had a funky. Yeah. So he ends up painting that for me. That's a love it or hate it paint color.
Oh yeah, and it looked really great. And along with some chrome trim, that thing was popping.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, I dressed out the engine again, and I got rid of some of the crazy stuff I had on it, just kind of cleaned it up a little bit more. I put Delordos on it because that was like the thing to do back then.
Yeah, my brother George
put some Delordos.
George
on it,
loves Delordos. I'm not.
But now at this point, I've done so much with Delordos. I'm just like, they're great for performance, but they're just finicky. And getting somebody to rebuild them right, I went through a couple builders to get carburetors built right for those. And once they're like 10,000 miles out of an NOS box, they're just really cantankerous, compared to the Weber. So I just kept going back to Weber's after that. But
so how do you get into? So you're into doing mechanical stuff, and you start building engines when you're young, or you start building engines when you like out of working on the aircraft in the military. You have the courage, like, oh, Volkswagen motor's even easier. Like,
well, just with my background, with maintenance and machine work, because I did 2 years of machinist work, and I also worked as a mechanical draftsman. So basically, the machine work interested me. So I started building engines for people, and I built engines for others before I even built some for myself. Yeah. So over time, I just got the confidence to be like, let's build something. And then over time, I just started branding myself and started building stuff. I mean, even when I started, my mom got me business cards back in the late 80s. It said barter or trade, Yeah. VW parts, barter or trade. She already had me pegged for my
Yeah.
business back then.
I'm
in
not
the
gonna lie,
late
dude.
80s.
I've done some tile and granite jobs for Volkswagen here and there. So
Yeah.
so I've been to somebody's house and like, oh, it's a lot of money. Like I do take Volkswagens on trade, so just to let you know.
You know,
But yeah,
I want to say my first having to put an engine together for somebody that I really just didn't know. They just wanted something done. Putting the rail buggy was probably in '88.
really,
Yeah. So
that's a long time ago. I mean, that's early. And so you get out of the military. Do you get a job doing Type 4 stuff anywhere, or you end up just?
I didn't get a job doing it. No, I just did my own stuff at that point. It was just a supply and demand thing. People wanted it, and then I found Jake, and I started talking with him.
Now, how do you run across Jake? Just through the internet?
Through the internet and a few of my customers, because even back then, like, the internet was still new to me, back then. So basically, I just ran like, parallel universes with him. Mm-hmm. So we just keep like crossing over every once in a while and meeting back up again. So basically in 2001, my buddy's like, hey, I'm going to put a Type 4 because he saw mine in my bug. He's like, I want to put a Type 4 in my bug. I was like, okay, we can do that. I said, well, go talk to Jake and see if he'll build you one. So Jake built him one, built it, put it in a box, and, it was going to go in his bus because he bought a bus, but he decided he was going to put it in his bug. So he goes, puts it in his bug, and he had an issue with it. So by no fault of Jake's, it was probably the guy had an engine stand, and we think maybe a mud dauber might have got an oil line, or it wasn't capped off properly. Something happened where it oil starved itself. So the engine lasts 5 minutes before it locks up. So I called Jake. The customer calls Jake. Jake's like, yeah, no problem. Just come up here and Jeff can fix it. So even back then, he's like, just let Jeff fix it. So basically, Jake hooked us up with the parts, and I blasted that engine all over the cabinet, asking him questions every once in a while. Otherwise, he pretty much left me to my devices. We put it together. I reinstalled it back in the car because I literally trailed the whole car up there and took the motor out.
Yeah.
And then busted it on a table, put it all back together again, got it running, put it on the dyno. We couldn't strap it to the dyno because it was an oval chassis. So because with a 56 oval, there's really not much in the back there to hold it down. So it was squatting pretty good. So we just decided just to drive it on the street. So we got a video of him somewhere. Basically, we're just giggling, laughing every time we're shifting through those gears, and that thing's just launching itself.
And what size motor was it?
It was a 2270. It was the standard signature series 2270s that we do a lot of. So
it's the same one I got in my bus to this day. Matter of fact, it's in the carbon cab temporarily while the other motor's getting gone through right now.
It's funny how some of these Volkswagen engines, they hibernate in other vehicles because, believe it or not, when the bus got done, that engine ended up coming out of that bug after he was offered another deal. One of my other friends bought a Type 4 motor and bought the whole kit from Jake in 2010 and decided not to build it. So I told my friend about it. I'm like, this is a good opportunity to get in something real cheap, and I can build it for you. So basically, my friend was able to buy that 2010 model, put that in his 56, and basically take his original 2001 model and put it in his 67 13 window deluxe.
Yeah.
So we just literally they're still in there today. So
that's cool.
And they'll start up on instantly. No problems.
I mean, I tell you, I had mine. I had my. I built my bus in 2002, and I remember I bought the motor from Jake. It was turnkey. It was $8,400, something like that. All my buddies are giving me grief, like, bro, that's a rip off. That's so freaking expensive, dude. Like, I'm like, I don't care. Because I happened to be somewhere. I was telling you the story yesterday. I happened to be somewhere. I was at the Classic, and I met a guy. I think the guy's name was Sam. I can't remember what his name was. He had a panel bus, and he was building it. It was on 16-inch Fuchs. And we're talking. We got to talking, and he's like, I'm like, yeah. Because, you go to a car show, like, I'm building a bus. I'll be here next year with my bus, And me and this guy are talking. We met at the host hotel, and he says, what are you doing for an engine? And I said, I don't know. I think I'll probably do 2276 or something. He says, why don't you do a Type 4? So we got talking. I go down the rabbit hole of the Type 4 stuff. I end up on Jake's site, and I'm like, you know what? Skip it. I'm just pulling the pin, getting a motor. And at the time, $8,500 was a lot of money for a motor. But my attitude was like, I don't care, dude. It's got the carbon Kevlar shroud. It's got, all this, that was brand new turnkey. Only issue I had with that motor really ever was there was a needle seat stuck on it and hydrolocked the motor a couple times. So other than that, that motor has been like, it's been through 2 alternators and thousands. I mean, I took that motor on Bull Run. I mean, that motor has been, if I had to guess how many miles I have on that, I'd have to say I've got at least at a minimum, if I had to conservatively guess, 30,000 miles on that engine, at least, if not more.
That's pretty good,
Yeah.
And
Knock on wood, finally a piece of wood over here. I've never had the heads off. I've never,
right.
I mean, I've had it down the drag strip. I think it ran a 1680 in that bus, full dress, speaker, sub box, everything in it, which is pretty dang fast for a bus. You know what I mean? A full dress bus. And, I mean, it's just been, and I'm sold on the torque of the Type 4s. Like, you can't convince me. We were talking this earlier, like we're talking about high horsepower and all stuff. I said, I don't care about horsepower. I care about torque, because torque is what sends the back end around.
That's right.
It ain't horsepower. Horsepower is what knocks your fillings out of your teeth when like you ever been on a dyno, just dynoing an engine, and you're just up there at like 6,000 RPM and you're just cringing the whole time. 7,000, you know, it's like, and those are those Type 1 motors. And so I always equate it to like the Type 1 is like the Japanese inline motorcycle engine, and the Type 4 is like the V-twin. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's just like torque for days. And a Type 4 in a Beetle feels like, I mean, it feels like a V8 in that thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's small block versus big block.
Yeah.
In the Mopar or the Chevy world, you know, that's what you got. You got those two. So I like the big block.
Since
VW
we're talking,
is what I tell people.
Since we're talking Type 4s, let's talk about some of the, you know, we've done it a couple times before on the podcast, but you know, and you know me, I'm trying to baptize everybody in the Type 4 church over here. But you know, my attitude is always, and it's just reinforced when I went to Holland to that show in the Netherlands, and they had there was two German look Beetles there. Both had Type 4s in them. Both were like almost 3 liters, and one was a Käfer Cup car, and the other one was a motor that was, the guy told me the motor's 45 grand, I think 45 or 35,000 bucks, turnkey. You can't buy the parts, they'll only build you the complete engine. And it's from a place in Germany called turboboxer.de. And it is, he said it's 380 horsepower at the wheels.
Wow.
Type 4, turboed. And if you go back on my Instagram and you look at my Instagram lives, it's the one where I'm talking to the guys at the Type 4, and I do this whole thing with them for like 10 minutes talking about the Type 4 stuff. But that's been like my thing is like, man, what if I could just turbo my Type 4, you know? And I remember there was a guy, Marty Staggs. I remember seeing him on the Samba forums, and he had a 912, I think it was, with a turboed Type 4 in it. It was all mocked up. It wasn't running, but I remember seeing him on the forums back in the day when we used to be all on the forums, just trying to, you know, figure out what's going on and all that stuff. But I mean, from your perspective, Type 4 setup, how many Type 4s do you think you've built?
Maybe 100.
And of those motors, what's your favorite motor to build, performance wise and ease of building and all that kind of stuff?
The 2270.
2270, and so
absolutely.
the 2270 is what combination?
It's like a 78 millimeter crankshaft and 96 millimeter piston cylinder set.
So it's the 78 by 96,
right?
And then you prefer to buy one of those Jake.
It's a Type 4
store kit.
Yeah.
So it's Type 4 store kit, and that's crank, rods.
Complete everything except your case.
It's everything except for the engine case.
To make it a long block. That's correct.
To long block the motor. And then what do you do? What do you typically do for cooling system?
It depends. It depends on which shroud and what configuration you're running it in as well.
If somebody wants a 911 shroud, you do a 911 shroud for them?
Probably not.
Why? Can't get them, or you don't like them?
I don't run any of that stuff.
You don't?
I run the DTMs, or I'll run the factory.
Bro, I have had, listen to me,
pancake ones, bro.
I have had that, and I live in Vegas. It's hot as a sauna up in here. I have 2 Type 4 motors. Both have the
sharp built
setups on it.
Those things there, those only eat alternators. That's about.
Well, you
just gotta understand that's the only downfall to it, but that's normal. It's not.
Yeah. Well, and the alternators, you know, a lot of the ones you're getting a rebuilt. I think the first one I had was used. You know what I mean? Who even knows what? Now they've just gone through the roof.
Oh yeah.
So.
And cutting the case, you got the machine work there involved as well. So
yeah.
It basically takes out the extra machine work.
Yeah,
So,
but I think that they just look so
they
good.
do look good.
I mean, I have a
No.
DTM kit. I bought one. I think I have number 1200 is my DTM kit, and
I think I have 10 of them sitting on my shelf. I have a problem.
and I have yet, and maybe I'll put it on. So I'm rebuilding 2 motors right now. One motor that I'm going to rebuild is going to be the 2650. It's going to go back in the carbon cab. Hopefully I'll get that done before December, because December I'm going to try to see if I can jump in that hot rod power tour and just do that. I'd love to do that in the carbon cab. And then I've got that. We were looking at my garage, that 2-liter Type 4 914 motor. And that one I could do upright or pancake, either or, because I got the DTM set up. The DTM setup, she ain't pretty, bro. She's not. I don't care what you say. It ain't pretty. Can't put no perfume on that pig. She's ugly. But she does the job. And she does the job. But, that's, I'm a little Gucci. I like my stuff to look a little, I'm sorry.
Those take a lot more fit and fitment to get them right, and then take them to a real professional painter that knows how to paint like Corvettes or something fiberglass.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could dial them in pretty sweet.
I've dialed a few in with the right painter.
Yeah.
To make it match the car.
Yeah, and I haven't spent a ton of time. Like I said, I bought the kit for a motor I was building. I can't remember how long ago. I don't know what happened to that car or that engine, and I ended up just shelving it recently. It's on a long block for fitment over in my container, and I'm hoping I have all the right stuff with it. But
because you got to mock all that stuff up.
Yeah, it's sitting on a motor. I'll show it to you in a little bit.
To get that alternator stand and get all that stuff
Yeah.
Square in there like you're supposed to. Once you get past that, then you can have it painted and matched up, and you can have all your tins the same way, cut up and matched up and sealed up.
Now, so you like the 2270 Type 4, and then what kind of cam do you put in it? Just whatever cam that they sell you that comes with the kit?
That's correct.
Like, what's it, the camper special, or what do they call it?
No, it's the next level up from that.
Oh,
there's
a little more,
the campers. Yeah, it's a lot more.
A little more snappy. What carburetors you like on them?
You're running the 44 Spanish Webers for the 2270.
And what kind? You dyno your motors?
We dyno them.
And what kind of horsepower you been getting out of a 2270?
It's 150 horsepower, 150 foot-pounds of torque. So
I gotta find my video. There's a video on my YouTube channel, my original dyno day video that I found from 2007. And I want to say I have 2 dyno day videos. I got to find them both, put them both on my website. But they're, I want to say I dynoed my Raby motor, my 2270 at the wheels. Are you dynoing at the flywheel or the wheels?
Well, it depends on
when you're getting
car.
150, you're dynoing flywheel.
That's actually on a run stand. That's not in the car. So
on a rolling dyno, I'm 135, 153. I almost remember that. For sure. 135 at the wheels, 153 torque. Yes. Which is really, 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 really good. Like, it's so funny because so many people hear these huge numbers and they think like, they think, everybody's thinking 300, 200, 300, 200. It's like 135 horse at the wheels on a bus is good. It's more than enough power to stay with traffic. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You stay with traffic. I mean, you can do a lot. I've yet to dyno my 2650 that was in the carbon cab, because that one's running 48. So I don't even know what cam's in that one. That was a motor I bought. There was a dude, Steve's Type 4 parts, that was on the Samba years ago, probably around 2006, 2007. And I bought, he's like, full Type 4 motors, $5,500. I'm like, bro, it's a deal. I'm getting that. So it was $2,600, whatever. Go down there, I buy it, I bring it back. I have my car painted at this paint shop that will remain nameless. I have it repainted. After I have that much money in the car, I'm like, well, I can't put this $5,000 motor in. So that's when I went to Jake and I got my second 26. I don't know if this is a 2615 or 2650. I think it's a 2615 is what he does. And I did that motor, and that one I opted for everything. The Nickies. I mean, the best of the best, and that motor at the time was $15,000 for that motor, and I shipped them all my tin. I may even have shipped them. I can't remember. I'm sure I got my paperwork and stuff, but I don't even have that car anymore. But that motor, I don't even remember what the dyno numbers were on that motor. But that motor, I paid for all the coatings, I paid for all the stuff. So I have him build one motor for me in 2002, and then I have him build another motor for me in 2000. 2008, 2007, 2008 is when he built the 2600. But that motor was a monster too. I mean, I've got video of me just leaving Nick's Burgers, just sending it sideways. You know what I mean? And it's just nothing better than a Type 4 for me for torque. And I'll never stop saying it because I like to get in the rhythm of just kind of assembling some of my own motor so I can just kind of, you know, have the confidence to do that. But there's so much work involved in it. You know what I mean? Just as far as the checking, double checking, and then all the parts and pieces that go with it. But
and the bigger you go, the more checks and the more you're paying for that machine work.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
Yeah.
So
you like the Type 4 motors. You typically buy a kit through the Type 4 store. And what's your, I mean, if I'm a Type 1 person, what's your reasoning for going Type 4? Just your general reasons right off the gate.
I just tell them it's 4 times more fun, but it's going to be 4 times more expensive. So that's pretty much my thing. It's just 4 times more fun. So
yeah.
And everybody that's ever driven one of my cars, you know, I've never heard anybody say I would never want that in my car.
And what's your current lineup of cars that you have?
And I've had women drive these cars. I mean, they're even women friendly. Like literally, I've had women get in these cars, and
well, the torque makes up a ton of difference.
Exactly. So when they're pushing that gas pedal, they know exactly where it's at.
Yeah, it is a good. I mean, I love it. I love them Type 4s, man. I can't get enough. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. But I'm looking at the engine kits that they have on the Type 4 store right now.
Sure.
And you're looking at their least expensive kit, the 2056, is crank heads. I'm assuming it comes. I don't see rods in the picture, but it's a crank heads, cam, and some miscellaneous pieces, and it's like $7,000. And then the kit with the cylinders, the 26.
Yeah, they'll only sell you that now. They'll only sell you the full kit now at this point.
So they have another.
Just look at the full kit.
A 2270 kit, and that kit is $74.95, but there's no pistons. And then they have the Type 4 conversion engine kit, which is a 2563, 190 horsepower, $11,255. And that one comes with, I'm assuming these are Nicky's piston or Nicky cylinders.
Yeah, Nicky cylinders with JE pistons.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it's a lot of coin, but you know, anymore, you're $20,000 building a motor. You know what I mean? If you're building a 2332 built to the hilt, all that stuff. So if you're starting at 11, a few $1,000 to build it, you know what I mean? Plus the parts top it out, you'd be able to, I don't think it's 4 times the price. I think it's pretty close to the same price. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't think it's that much more. If you're building like a top quality 2332.
Well, you still got to do the DTM upright conversion. You're still going to have to do
the
exhaust. This is just a long block.
No, I got you. With the 11.
Start tagging on everything. It starts climbing up there. So
yeah. Well, I think. Do you think it's easier to build a Type 4 versus Type 1?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys building Type 4s out there. I think everybody just has such a hard time doing the.
They're just so worried about the syndrome, and the syndrome's been fixed. So the loose valve seat, overheating a loose valve seat is pretty much a thing of the past.
Well, because
sucking a valve through one side of the head is pretty much a thing of the past. You can buy a brand new set of, I won't name the brand, but you can buy a brand new set of those out of a box that haven't been gone through, and they might last you 10,000. But the first time your engine, especially on a fuel injection, decides to go awry and run you lean, and you suck a valve through the side of it, it's done.
What's the process they do to make them more bulletproof?
Well, at one point in time, they were taking the castings and they were stripping the castings and starting over, 100% starting over, literally throwing all the trash, valve springs, retainers, valve guides, valve seats, studs, all that stuff goes into garbage. All that stuff goes in scrap metal. It's all just third world junk.
Yeah.
And they go and put all new everything in them. So depending on what springs, what cam, that's how those heads get built. All the different CNC machining goes into them, all the porting, and all the valve seats that are never supposed to come loose ever again.
Well, knock
all the
on
cryogenics
wood.
in there, all the coatings.
Knock on wood. I have had, I've had some pretty good, DTM cooling systems, only $1,700. So, I've had pretty good luck, and I've driven the crap out of my motor. So, I've had some good luck with my 2270. I've hadn't had, knock on wood, no head issues, no nothing. It's just been such a. What I love about it is they just run good. They just run good, tons of torque, plenty of power, and maybe the good part that I started with my motor, what made it last so good so long is everything was brand new carburetors, brand new everything, and this was back again in 2001, 2002 when they had a little more, maybe better quality of parts back then. I don't know. Are they still are they having no issue getting bearings? And when you buy bearings and stuff through like the Type 4 store, are they already pre-checked and all that stuff? Like they go through and check all your stuff for you?
Well, some of it's pre-checked and some of it's on my end. So, but what's really bad is those bearings are sent straight to a coder, and from the coder they're sent straight to me. So it's a direct ship item. So it kind of does the circle and comes back to me. So the only way you're going to really check bearings is if you check them and send them and get them coated yourself.
Yeah.
In our Type 1 motors, that's what we do. We basically check everything for fitment, and then we send our stuff off for coatings. So on the Type 1 side of my business, everything gets coated just like the Type 4 side. So
yeah, no, and you believe you've, because I did all the coatings on mine. Do you see a difference? And what coating specifically you talked about?
You're talking about the ceramics on the inside, and then you're talking about a thermal coating on the outside that sheds heat.
So thermal coating on the exterior of the heads.
Yes.
So the heads it's almost like a Cerakote, but something different. They coat the heads with
Correct.
something that makes the heads dissipate heat cooler.
That's correct.
And then they do,
and just the color, it's like a anti-reflective as well.
Really?
So when they always said chrome don't get you home, anything shiny is always going to be a problem.
mm-hmm.
So you're reducing that reflectivity inside there, so it has nothing to bounce off of. So that's another way of shedding heat as well.
Nice.
Instead of just just painting them black, which is not recommended on a cylinder or a head.
Right.
So
the coatings, you do the coatings, you like the coatings,
yes.
and they're supposed to make the heads run cooler also.
Yes.
They have. I'm sure Jake's got all kinds of.
Oh, they got thousands of hours of R&D and millions of dollars invested in all this stuff. So
yeah,
they're not going to keep pushing a product that's a time waster at this point.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I don't think there's anybody more thorough than Jake Raby, right?
That's right. And then on top of that, I've taken heads that have 10,000 miles on them. All they have is carbon buildup and oil burn from being just installed on a motor just to try to fix it, even though the bottom end was trash.
Mm-hmm.
I took those, had them cleaned up, and the coatings were still on there. So I didn't have to disrupt any of the coatings. Took it to the machine shop, and the coatings were still there. So basically, I was able to just reuse those heads on another build that I did.
Yeah, because that's really that's the survey says the weak point of the Type 4 is the head.
Correct. So the correct head builder, you got the correct head builder, which the Type 4 store does. Then you're gonna.
Now I see he uses these downdraft, these like horizontal fan kits now. At least on his website, he's got this one with the horizontal fan. What's the deal with that? You use those?
I used the Shreb motorsport style oil coolers and fans. If you're doing like a remote oil cooler, which you have to do with the V2 shroud.
Right.
The V2 shroud is a really clean setup. It's not like the V1. So with the V1, you just run a remote oil cooler and thermostat, mechanical thermostat.
Right.
So at certain periods of time, it does the 180, and at 190 the fan kicks on. So, and it's real clean setup. You can put the linkage behind the shroud. So all you see is an alternator and the set of carburetors. There's nothing in the front. And my buddy, we put AC on both of his cars. So all you see is an AC compressor, an alternator, and a pulley. That's it. And a belt.
Really?
You don't see the linkage because it's behind the shroud. And it's all accessible. And it's in a Bug. It's in a VW Bug.
So how does it, and so he's got AC on his Type 4?
He's got AC in his Bug on his Type 4.
Really?
Correct.
With a DTM kit?
With a DTM. Mm-hmm.
How long ago they do that?
Been doing it for a while. Nobody sells it.
Why? But did you buy the kit from?
We bought the kit from Gilmore just for the AC and the dash unit.
Because actually Gilmore, when the one guy used to own Gilmore, because they've sold it once. I don't know if once or twice they've sold it in the past 6 or 7 years. But the original guy that brought Gilmore out here, the guy from Florida, I actually loaned him that DTM shroud on a long block so that he could do some bracketry calculations and stuff. So,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we're not going to talk about Type 4s enough. So what parts are really hard to find for Type 4s? What's the hard, like rebuilding an engine, what's going to be the hardest part to find?
If you're just going to randomly build your own.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the push rod tubes you can reuse.
Right, you can reuse the push rod tubes if you want. They're still available.
Are they?
You can buy brand new ones.
Because I saw somebody was making some push rod tubes. I don't know why they make it. I assume because they were making them, that they were making them because no one's making them.
They're just making billet ones. That's all.
Yeah,
it's no big deal. And you can make them different lengths. There's people out there making different lengths because different motors sometimes they grow. And then flywheels, I think flywheels, because most people want a 200 millimeter flywheel so they can have a myriad of selections for clutches and pressure plates.
And 200 millimeters is the stock bus one?
It's just a standard all around 12 volt 200 millimeter flywheel. So if you buy their conversion flywheel, which they sell that conversion flywheel, it's also it's a billet flywheel. It's not cast, so it's drag race ready from the get-go.
Yeah.
So you can put that in your Beetle transmission, you can put that in just about anything. So that's the way to go right there. So basically, if you want a stage 2 kit in your Beetle or your bus, you can run it because you can run a Kennedy pressure plate and disc, and there's no modification there.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's cool, man.
So you have to buy that off the shelf. You're not gonna just, and having a problem finding it. I haven't really come across anything that you can't get for a Type 4, either on the used market or on the aftermarket world.
Somebody reaches out to you to build a motor. What kind of timeline are you on?
A 1 year schedule right now.
Are you that far booked out for building motors?
That far booked out, yes.
That's crazy.
Because it's, I tell people, it's 6 months for me to get everything together for your motor build, and then once I get you back on the schedule, I can start your build. So I tell them a year. So I got a 63 Beetle right now that I'm building one. It's a 2270. It's supposed to be 175 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, it's got special inserts for the case. It's got special studs. It's going to be a ground pounder.
Why all this special stuff? Is it?
It's just what's holding the nickeys and the heads together.
Is it turbo or is it high compression?
It's higher compression. It's got a bigger cam. It's going in a 5-speed transmission. The chassis is already done.
What kind of 5-speed box?
It's just I think it's the Medola box or whatever.
Oh, the Mendiola?
Yeah, the Mendiola box, all converted, all brand new. Everything's brand new on it.
Nice.
And I put the Type 2 stub flanges on it with thing half shafts.
Oh, really?
Heavy duty axles.
So you're doing the whole car?
Yeah, I'm doing the whole car for the guy. So, but the chassis is done. It's got the transmission mounted in there. It's got the Berg linkage. It's got all the Berg mounts for that transmission as well, because it's got the Berg 5-speed in it built into it.
No, I've got a Berg 5-speed somewhere in the Midwest. Somewhere should be coming to me soon. But I'm trying to figure out that's going to go in one of my cars. And I got this extra Type 4 that I'm going to start working on. I'm going to try to figure out which car that's going in, if I'm going to pancake it or what. But
yeah, I'm going to V2 this one as well, so it's going to be real clean.
Nice.
All hidden oil cooler setup and thermostat and all that stuff's just
now
disappears.
So the V2 they don't use the factory oil cooler and the offset.
That's
piece,
correct. It's just a shroud, man.
It's just the DTM shroud, and then they use a remote cooler.
That's correct.
What kind of results has he got from the remote cooler use?
We've had pretty good. The one customer I have, he has a V1 and a V2. So the V1 was his first orientation to it, which is in 2001, and in 2010 the V2 came out, so he wanted the V2, and that's what's in his oval bug. So it's really small. It takes up very little room in the engine compartment.
And it doesn't have that extra heater hose that comes up.
Yeah, it doesn't have the ugly heater hose. So basically, you can, if you get the V2 shroud, you just have a really nice clean shroud, and he's got it custom painted to match the car, so it all blends in. And then he's got all the tins cut to match, and then has them all powder coated as well. So and the tin kit, you can buy the water jet kit from the Type 4 store, and you can manipulate that tins to work for yourself as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's rad, man. Did we talk? I asked you about your lineup, but I don't know if we got into the lineup of the cars that you own now.
Oh.
So what's it?
I don't know if I want to.
But what's your daily right now that you drive? I mean, as far as like for your most frequently driven Volkswagen is what?
My most frequently one is my 66 panel bus. It's a Tiki bus. Everybody calls it the Tiki bus. It's been all the way out to Lake Havasu and back a few times, and not driving it, but trailered it obviously. But it's been to quite a few shows.
Yeah, you might have to bring it out.
It's never. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring it out. It's never made it to California, but you know.
Listen, if you do one crazy weekend next year, usually the following week is Octo.
Sounds good.
And we'll road trip it down there. As much as I like towing my rig, we'll just drive them down there so
No
you can
problem.
battle Baker Grade. So you get to see what Baker Grade's all about.
Right on.
Let me see here. I got my guy hitting me up. So people wanted to get some stuff done from you. Are you pretty tied up with working on stuff, or you got time to do smaller projects, or what?
I really don't have time to build any more cars right now. I'm pretty much I'm pretty well stacked right now. So
Yeah.
along with a few of my own personal projects that are kind of bad and back burnered for a while. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. What shows do you normally go to during the year on the East Coast over there?
Yeah, with the East Coast, you know, there's quite a few in Florida. So I venture out to Bug Jam usually once a year. I try to go to like Nodo. Nodo is a real big one. I'm pretty sure you probably heard of that one.
Yep, I have. So if I got to pick one show to go to on the East Coast, what show am I going to?
You're going to go to Bug Jam because that's like the biggest one.
Yeah.
If you want swap, if you want.
Bug Jam's coming up in like a week or two, right? Isn't it?
That's right. So as soon as I bust out of here, I got to go.
You got to go to Bug Jam.
I got to go clean my bus so I have something to drive down
over
there.
to Bug Jam?
I've driven that way, and I've also trailered that way, depending on if I'm swapping
far
or
is
not. It's probably like a 4.5 hour drive, maybe 300 miles, maybe.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
Over there, it's all pretty flat, or do you got to
Yeah,
go
it's
through any
flat.
hills?
There's no hills, no.
Yeah, you just got to watch out for gators.
Yeah, well, unless you go down Alligator Alley, but
Oh,
I
no.
haven't had any problems with gators lately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got all kinds of stuff out there, bugs and skeeters and all kind of stuff. So
Yeah, because one time I took my bus to another event, and I ended up hanging out with my dad for a couple of days, and then I ended up evacuating out of Florida because they had a hurricane coming.
yeah,
So I just took all the back roads up 98 in my tiki bus, just blazing back home. And then,
what
of course,
what motor you got in the Tiki bus, bro?
Believe it or not, it's a 1776 with
Unbelievable.
dual caddies.
I can't even make eye contact with you anymore. I can't even make eye contact. You got dual
You and
caddies.
everybody else, the first
with
thing
the
they'll say is,
7
"Why doesn't it have a Type 4?"
Why
in
does
there?"
the Type 4 Revolution guy
I'm
have a
like-
Type? Why
I'm
is he
like-
doing the Type 1
I'm
Revolution?
like, a Type 4 is just too much for
No way.
that bus. Way too much.
It's just like the best part of a Type 4 is you don't really need to downshift to pass somebody. Just lean in the throttle a little more and just
That's it.
roll past them.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
But my 74 bus has a Type 4 in it. So, and my 76 Beetle had a Type 4 in it. So, unfortunately, it passed away in a car accident. Luckily, it didn't take me out.
yeah.
So, some guy in a Toyota hit me and jammed me into a Mercedes.
Ooh.
So, basically, totaled that car.
In a Beetle.
In my 76 standard Beetle, yeah, which is even a harder car to find.
Yeah.
It was
We
all
talked
patina car.
We talked about it on the podcast. The
Yeah.
77 is probably the 77 is the rarest Beetle. There's 12,000 production sedans. 12,000. 1977.
Well, good luck finding a 76 standard Beetle too.
Yeah.
They're hard to find. I found one.
No,
it was
76s, 75, 76, 77, they're not easy to find, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
and for $250 when I did buy it with a roof rack, it was great. It just needed some motor work, and so I was like, well, if it needs some motor work, guess what I have? I have a Type 4 motor sitting underneath my drill press, and it's not going anywhere. So that's when I decked it out and shoved it in there, and it was in there until that day, and then it ended up in a 72 Beetle, and now that motor's in a rail buggy. So it's continuing on,
yeah.
even outside of my possession.
Well, I
So-
mean, if you take care of them, you keep them oiled, and you keep them happy. Those things run for a long time, especially when the heads have been dialed in and everything's good to go. So
Oh yeah, I have a couple of Foot Lockers with nothing but Type 4 stuff in it that's got my name on it.
yeah,
For me,
you got to
so,
get one back on the road, bro.
Not a problem.
Next year, you got to October, bring your Type 4 out here because I want to wait for your 1776 with the dual caddies, dude. It might not make it up. I'm telling you, that hill's a killer, dude. That hill's 6,000 feet straight up. It's
Yeah,
a freaking
that's the Nicky's Type 4 right there. That'll take care of that one. You know,
yeah. Let's do
for
it.
sure.
I'm ready.
Even my 74 Westphalia's got a Type 4 in it, so
Yeah.
with 44s on it. So
Pancake still.
oh yeah,
Still pancake. You have the tall manifolds on it.
I got the short manifolds on it. I put shorties on there, just like Jake likes to use the same
Yeah.
earlier versions.
Did you do
not
something with the
CB.
tranny in that thing? Because them freaking trannies are geared low.
It's got a 5 rib in it, so
So is it a taller ring and pinion in that thing?
it's a tall ring and pinion in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had that 75. I had 74. I think it's 75, 74, 75, the orange bus that I had. And I drove it to buses, and that was a cool bus, man, but it just sounded like it was just wringing its neck going out there.
And 73 and below, it's like it's really tight.
Yeah.
Those 002 trains are really just wound
Yeah.
up tight. You're doing 65, and it's trying to throw poor little Type 1 rods out of it, more or less Type 4.
Now, what brought you to SEMA?
Brought me to SEMA. I'm with a group called HH Wheels, and basically they run a YouTube channel. Caroline and James, they run a YouTube channel. So
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. She's she got a lot going on.
yeah, so basically they're car builders, and she's an avid Volkswagen person from day one. So she bought her tooth off on this one car, and over time she's just been working on it. And then at one time, like a couple of years ago, she reached out to me to get her car back on the road again because she was having engine problems, and she bought, like everybody, I'm going to buy this part, I'm going to buy that part, I'm going to buy this part, and their whole combination is wrong. Instead of just buying a kit, a formulated kit that
Right.
works. So they just had a pile of parts. So we had to sort through the pile of parts and then go from there and then order the parts that she needed properly, which you can see on her YouTube channel as well.
Right.
At the HH Wheels. So basically, it was basically a love-hate relationship from there, just trying to make that motor what she wanted. So we ended up with a strange combination, which is a 1967 cc motor.
1967. What is that?
It's a really oddball. It's like a 74 crank. You clearance the case forward, that and the H-beam rods, and then you throw some thick wall 92s at it.
Really?
So basically, your case is cut for 90.5s, and your heads are cut for 94s. So it's total oddball. It's total odd man out right there.
Huh.
So, but it works. And so I've had a few customers over time get these motors. I did one for a 1967 bus. So I figure the guy is going to tell people, he's a Volkswagen guy, but he's not a car wrenching kind of guy. So when he tells people, they're like, what kind of motor you got in your bus? He's going to go, a 1967. They're like, no, not what year your bus is. What kind of motor you got in your bus? He's going to go 1967.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an ear puller. So, but it's a really torquey little motor, really reliable, torquey little motor. And you can run it in a Volkswagen style. You can run it in a Baja style.
Yeah.
It seems to be favorable. It's right up there with like a 1904.
Yeah, I had a 1904. Love that motor.
I build lots of 1904s for people.
They're nice. I mean, it's like everything's one size up. Pistons, crank, like it's just a little bump up bigger than stock, and it's just got a lot of punch. But
and you're retaining that meat in the case as well. You're not thinning out that case like you would a 2332, where it's like the case is like hollow, and you've got two pieces of paper thin at the top of the case halves.
No.
So
that's good stuff.
You do that on a Type 4, you're running a really big system.
Yeah.
You're running a 3 liter. If those guys overseas, they're running like those 3 liters. They're paper thin at the top, but there's still plenty of meat on a Type 4.
Yeah, they're. I mean, those dudes in Europe don't play. One of these days, I'm gonna get one of these. I'm gonna get one of these with the engine. I'm trying to get Johannes on the podcast and a couple other guys out of Europe, but I got to get a Type 4, a German Type 4 engine built on here to talk about all of these things as we do.
That's right.
That was a terrible German accent, but listen. But yeah, no, listen, man. I'm glad we had to sit on it and chat. I'm glad we connected down here at the SEMA show. It looks like you had a good time here this week. There's a lot to take in, man. It's a sensory overload for sure.
Yeah, that's why I can only do it every other year, because there's just no way I could do this every year.
You go home and just burn your car to the ground like this piece of crap. It doesn't have a plasma screen that pops up out of the door.
Nothing.
It doesn't have 14, 17-inch speakers in the back,
I don't have quick disconnect harnesses and all this stuff. I got fuses that are dated, Yeah.
No, it's a good time. It's a lot of walking this year. I did 2 days. I was almost going to go today, and then I was just like, you know what, man? Because I wanted to get in there this week and go see this guy from, I forget the name of the company, but I've got a video on it. I interviewed him 2 years ago at SEMA show, so I got to put the video out. But he's got a head temp sensors and some other stuff that he has, some digital 4-in-1 gauges that go on the dash. It's all CAN bus technology, and it's fairly affordable. So I'll be doing a update on that coming up here. So, and it's really cool because you put cylinder head temperatures and check all 4 cylinders if you want, or just check one of them and use the other 4 heat sensor inputs for other, do them for oil temp and do it for all kind of other stuff. So, but yeah.
Yeah, we use some aviation stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Where you can monitor all 4 cylinders. And it's really a good tuning aid or a really good monitor.
Right. Yeah.
As long as you got it precisely calibrated and everything's running to par right there.
No, it's great, man. Well, look, man, I'm glad we got to hang out for a little bit this week. We're going to go
Likewise.
and run down to First Friday at Finley and see what's going on down there. But other than anything else we didn't cover on the podcast, you think we should have covered?
No, man, I appreciate your hospitality, Bill. Thank you.
Right on, brother. Thanks.
All right.
If you like that podcast, and I know you did, make sure you share it with a friend. So click on the link wherever you're listening right now, copy and paste it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, or text it to your group of VW friends. So don't forget to share the podcast, Let's Talk Dubs, your favorite VW podcast. We continue to keep growing. We're getting close to our 500,000th download so far. So we're listened to around the world. And if you're around the world and you ain't near me, that's you I'm talking about. So everybody around the world, all my peeps, I love it, man. Appreciate you guys for listening. So we got a podcast coming up, roundtable soon. George and I discuss. We get some feedback on the One Crazy Weekend. So we got a letter sent to us, anonymous letter, giving us some constructive criticism. So we're going to address a bunch of that stuff because the letter's a little late to the game, but it's a valid concern that some people had. But there's already been things that have been majorly addressed for next year's event. So until next week, guys, make sure you go give us a 5-star review. Let's get to 500 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, guys. So until next week, guys, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new